Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you. I have learned that in times of separation and loss and sorrow, the Psalms can bring much comfort and solace. In the Spirit, we now hear the voice of the psalmist, Psalm 23, this great psalm of faith. And these words remind us that even when we feel alone or lonely, we are never truly alone, for God is with us. And we know that God is with Lee, with Papa. Psalm 23.
Mizmor leDavid, Adonai roi lo echsav, binot desher yarbitseni, al me menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yeshoveh, nafshi yeshoveh, yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begetz al-mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, neged sorerai, dishanta vashemen roshi, dishanta vashemen roshi, dishanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed, irdefuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti beveit Adonai, v'shavti beveit Adonai, le'orech yamin. Yadai, 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 yadai. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
I continue with a modern day poem which we read at our synagogue, Temple Emmanuel, from time to time. I believe Lee liked it, or he would have told me otherwise. I'd like to personalize this for Lee. At the rising of the sun, and as it's going down, we will remember Lee. At the blowing of the wind, and in the chill of winter, we will remember Papa, your Papa. At the opening of the buds, and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. At the blueness of the skies, and in the warmth of summer, we will remember him. At the rustling of the leaves, and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember Lee. At the beginning of the year, and when it ends, we will remember him. As long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us, all of us, as we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joy, we crave to share. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have achievements that are based on his, we will remember Lee. As long as we live, he too will live. For he is now a part of us as we remember him. We may not all know one another, although I think we do. And yet we all feel connected by our love, respect, and admiration for Lee. And the question to be found on all of our lips is why? I mean, why is it that Lee was suddenly taken from us and at this time, and when he had so much to live for, and so much yet to offer, and so much yet to give and do? And the answers do not flow easily or at all. We turn to our Judaism as Lee would, for direction, for meaning, for comfort, for strength, for hope. Lee's Judaism meant a great deal to him. He was a child of the synagogue. His parents founded the Princeton Jewish Center, and Lee and Helen grew up there, and Lee was so proud to be Jewish, and he was so proud of Temple Emmanuel. So what does Judaism teach? We learn from our tradition, listen to this, we live our lives in deeds, not in time. Let me repeat that. We live our lives in deeds, not in time. If this is true, then Lee's deeds were many and noble and very good. All of this is very personal for Peggy and for me. Lee and Rosie, Rosie and Lee, it's like one word. They were close friends. They are close friends. And Lee was actually like a loving big brother to me. His absence now makes us feel as if part of ourselves has been taken from us, and it hurts. It does hurt. I mean, it's not like we talked daily. Most men do not. But when we talked, or when we had lunch at Ponzio's, it's not a commercial, where Lee always ordered the exact same thing. A Reuben with fries. Don't tell Rosie. And I always ordered the exact same thing. A salad. Our conversation quickly became focused and intense and honest and open. As a confidant, Lee taught me so many things. Especially when the going went tough, for me, he said, Jerry, always stay the course. Even if you regret a decision you made, stay the course. And trust your instincts and be yourself and be true to yourself. And finally, this is a good one for board members of TE. Never call for a vote when you do not know the outcome of that vote. You like that one, Dave? Okay. We first met the Hymerlings through Rabbi Soslow, of blessed memory. He was my senior rabbi, and he mentioned to me that there's this nice young couple with a young child. And that child, he's about the same age as your son, your middle son, John. And we met, and we bonded right away. And a tradition was born of bringing our children to Rosie and Lee's home on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur as I led the late service, the second service. Of course, the coverage was far more than just like a babysitting. It was activities and plans and workshops and food, for sure. And I really think that's where our holiday enrichment program was born. I do. Most people do not think of Lee as warm and fuzzy, because he was not. However, to understand Lee, to really know Lee, was to know that he had a warm, kind, compassionate, and giving heart. He fulfilled his Hebrew name beautifully, which is Leib, heart. His father was Leib, so was Leib ben Leib. Lee also had a brilliant mind. He had a mind of his own. In other words, he was stubborn. He was smart and he was wise. That's very different, by the way. He was insightful and he was honest and he was consistent. He always wore one of his 200 light blue button-down Oxford shirts with one of his 30 UMP ties, and I see Mark is wearing one of those ties today. Where's the blue shirt? That's okay. Oh, right. Lee had so many interests and passions, from art, as you know, to music, stamps, books, traveling, flyers, Phillies. Early on, Lee learned the meaning of hard work and diligence. at Archer, and I know there are many colleagues here today, Lee devoted 40 years to the area of family law. And during those many years, he established a statewide reputation for excellence. He was named, and I quote, a best lawyer in America, a New Jersey super lawyer, a top attorney, an awesome attorney. And for 15 years, he served as chair of the New Jersey Supreme Court's Disciplinary Review Board, a position he was extremely proud of. Lee was likewise exceedingly proud of his leadership at Temple Emmanuel. He began his involvement by editing the Temple's Constitution. And we have a saying at our synagogue, since no good deed goes unpunished, he was elected to the board. And shortly thereafter, really shortly thereafter, he became the president. And his focus was actually on Temple youth group, youth programming, and also community connection and interfaith relations. His devoted service spans 40 plus years, and he was just about to return to the board once again. So Lee, what would you advise me now? What would you advise us now? I think he might say to us now, don't mourn for me, for I did not lead a mournful life. And you know, in the balance, he certainly did not. He led a full, fulfilling, active, vital, vibrant, purposeful, and good life. Most of all, Lee loved you, his dear family. And he would do anything and everything for you, and you for him. Lee first met Rosie when Lee's father was interviewing candidates for a position to be a companion, or maybe more like a nanny, to Helen, Lee's younger sister. At the time, Rosie was offered $100 a week, and she responded, well, that's way too much. At which point, at the same moment, Lee entered the room. She was sitting on the couch, and he said to her, you take it. You accept that. And since Lee was such a good financial advisor to Rosie, they have been together ever since. And over your past 52 years, you evolved into a real team, a true partnership, best friends, soulmates. I remember like those get-togethers in your home, and Rosie would be in the kitchen, and Lee would be schlepping back and forth, carrying things. He really was a co-partner in that, pretty much. Right? Right. He just didn't cook. But he slept, which is... Rosie, I can't even begin to imagine how much you will miss your life's partner. And how Lee loved you, Mark, Danielle, grandchildren, Lucas, Leah, Logan. I I know Lucas is here. He's listening in the other room, and so is Danielle. Lee would be so proud that you are here today to hear these good stories. I know that your dad, your papa, is so proud of you. Who's proud of your achievements and proud of the bright, sensitive, and caring family that you are. And Mark, your mom and dad always derive so much joy from you sounding the shofar on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I bought Mark his first shofar on a family trip to Israel. He was just 7 years old, and he was so diligent. He practiced for 5 years until he made his debut, and he's been with us ever since. Mark was also the very first bar mitzvah in what we call the new building. We were trying, the holidays were a little bit later that year. They're always on time, but they were a little later. And we were trying to get that sanctuary in shape for the first bar mitzvah, for the first event. You could smell the paint in the room. There were no fixed seats. We used folding chairs. And then it was time for your bar mitzvah. We have a beautiful ark that's actually not solid gold. It's painted gold. It's like gold leaf paint. It wasn't quite dry yet, so everyone who came up to the bima for an honor looked at their hands. They had so we call that like a bima honor that kept on giving. And now Lucas, he's 7, and he's 9. No, he got a shofar when he was 7. That's right. Keep me honest. He got his shofar when he was 7. He's now 9, and he's been practicing, and he is awesome on the shofar as well. And Leah has begun practicing too, right? Right. Leah's also survived by and will be profoundly missed by his dear sister Helen and your husband George and your family. All of us here today will carry with us so many personal, warm, rich, good memories of this exceptional man. This man of integrity and honesty, and all of our sacred stories and all of our precious memories can never ever be taken away. We are about to enter the Hebrew month of Elul, a time anticipating the High Holy Days. It's a time of introspection, evaluation, and change. And we're to sound the shofar during Elul. The shofar wakes us up and gives us hope. And at the end of this service, we will once again hear the stirring sound of the shofar. Truly, we live our lives in deeds, not in time. May Lee's memory make life all the more precious to us. May his memory inspire us to labor for a world in which every life shall find its fulfillment, as he found his. I'd like to call on Rosie and Mark.
May the peace of God be upon your heart. I love you. I quote, use the talents that you possess, for the woods would be silent if no birds sang the best. People say that I'm a strong woman, but where do I begin? Better yet, how do I begin? Just a capsule view. Most of you are familiar with Lee's legal career. He was brilliant. His abilities and his mind were extraordinary. But I'll share ice with you. And there was so much there to share. So much to show. So much to tell. Jerry told you, how did I meet Lee? Babysitting for him. She's 9 years younger than Lee. And his parents were traveling and needed someone to stay. So I stayed forever. Our first date was October 21st, 1967. And we got married January 8th, 1969. Lee was in law school, and I was speaking to one of his law school friends the other day, and he said, thank God he married you. You would have never made it through law school. I didn't go to law school, but I learned the law. So you see, the rest is history. Some people would ask, maybe jokingly or maybe seriously, why did you stay married to him? And I would respond, no one wanted to be his adversary. My husband, my friend, Mark's dad, his brother, my grandchildren's papa, my confidant, my partner. We were married almost 53 years. We built a wonderful life together. We were so young when we moved to Cherry Hill. Lee was an exceptionally intelligent lawyer, respected by the bar and thanked by so many. He lived practicing law. He loved practicing law. And as I cherished teaching, he took pride in his career as an attorney. Family law was his forte. He mentored lawyer after lawyer, explaining, writing, giving family law new meaning. He was a giant in his profession, but he was a mighty giant in my life. Sorry. Our personal life was filled with beauty. On our 5th wedding anniversary, we decided that our gift to each other would be art. And so our collection began. We bought an Alexander Calder. It's hanging in our dining room, so when you come later on today, you'll see it. Our art collection is exciting, and our home is alive with color and design. Some people call it a mini Barnes, but to us, each piece told a story. For example, the totem pole. The totem pole was for Lee's 50. Our collection is like a quilt of our lives. We traveled throughout the world, abroad to London 50 or 60 times for our theater fix. But not just England, Ireland, Scotland, France, Germany, and Austria, and Romania, and Denmark, and Greece, and Sweden, and Norway, and Holland, and Morocco, and Egypt, and of course Israel. We love Panama, Costa Rica, the islands. The arts, not just art. Art embraces music too. Lee was chairman of Symphony and C, and the orchestra thrived and thrived under his direction, and today continues to thrive. When Mark arrived, November 11, 1980, it was a dream come true. Lawrence Mark Hymerling, LMH, son of Lee Morton Hymerling, LMH, and Lee's dad, Leonard Manuel Hymerling, LMH, and now Lee's two grandsons, Lucas Mason Hymerling and Logan Mitchell Hymerling, both LMH. That's what they call them in the office too. From generation to generation, blood divorce by divorce. Oh, LMH is passed down in our family from father to son. And then his granddaughter came along, Leah. Change of pace. Leah Elizabeth. She was named after my mom. She's got my mom's personality too. We welcome Mark's wife, Danielle, into our lives with love. And oh yes, we do have Snoops. He's been with us for 11 years. You'll meet him also. Temple Emmanuel in Judaism has always been important to Lee and our whole family. He was a past president, and we've been members for almost 50 years. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Rabbi David. Some memories, think about break the fast. You think 30 people are coming? 130. It was tradition. And Mark blowing the shofar, you'll hear. Haddonfield has been our home for the past 35 years. Lee loved hosting philanthropic events at our home and sharing collections with antique books and his stamps and his love for history and his hockey sticks and his hockey pucks and his signed pictures. He loved collecting. When we had our parties, I cooked, of course, and our guests were wined and dined. But our favorite, Halloween. Halloween was the best. We hosted about 1,700 trick-or-treaters for homemade donuts. CIO has been so special to us forever. Our neighbors of 45 years are here. My friend of 70 years is here. 70. I'm 75. Tony's mom and dad lived upstairs from my mother and father. And one night, Sophie got a little upset, and she was banging on the ceiling because Bobby did something wrong. And the ceiling tiles fell into my crib and landed on my hand. It knocked some sense into it. Jody and Sandy and our friends forever. And then North Carolina, our summers at Whalehead Beach were always extra special. When we bought our house, there was this little cottage on stilts, and bought it because it was just like right there. I ran across the sand. Like this one. It was 3. Yeah. We bought it. And we still have a house, 2 houses in North Carolina. And I still love running across the sea. He was my son. In my room. He was my stars. He was the center of my universe. He was the love of my life. He was my knight in shining armor. How do I love thee?
Thank you all for coming to help celebrate and remember my dad. A special thank you to Rabbi David for returning to lead the service today. Wouldn't have been the same without you. As my mom mentioned, Dad was a dynamic attorney. His accomplishments in the legal field are far too numerous to mention. Even with all the years since he is retired, I still have clients that come in, see my golf bag, and say, "Hymerling, are you related to Lee?" I proudly say that he is my father, and they usually follow up with, "Well, did he get you into golf?" Kind of laugh and answer, "He may have been the only lawyer that didn't play golf." He wasn't the most athletic, as those from the office can attest to, especially if you remember the firm sports teams.
And they called him Lumpy. That was his nickname.
He might have been the reason they got rid of him. As a kid, I didn't always understand the reasons he worked so hard. There were periods of resentment that he spent so much time at work, missed a game or a dinner. As I grew up, I realized that he sacrificed those experiences to ensure that he was able to provide for his family, to make sure that Mom and I were always taken care of, and later that Danielle and our children, Lucas, Leah, and Logan, were provided for. Dad and I bonded over Flyers and Phillies games. Some of my fondest memories include the All-Star game in 1992 at the Spectrum, the inaugural event at the, now Wells Fargo Center, during the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, to seeing the Stanley Cup presented, albeit to the other team, in 2010, and the 2012 Winter Classic at Citizens Bank Park, the 2008 World Series, then taking Lucas to his first Phillies game. Some of our final conversations were about the Flyers and their multitude of changes this offseason. While Dad always said that Mom was the glue that held the family together, and she is, Dad was the rock that our family was built on. He was always there to support and defend us, and as his fellow attorneys can testify, you didn't want to be on his bad side. Dad was fiercely loyal to his family and friends, generous with his time, wisdom, and knowledge. As Lucas said, when I asked him what he would want to say about Dad, this is a quote from Lucas, "Papa was the kind of man who, once you got to know him, you knew he was going to be a good friend." I couldn't say it any better than that. These last few years have been challenging, to say the least. He once told me that he wished that he was a better father. I just hope that he knew how lucky I was to have him as my dad. His love and support may not always have been spoken, but they were always felt. I am so happy that Lucas and Leah were able to spend so much time with him and will be able to share their wonderful memories with Logan. The kids loved him so much, and he was so proud of their accomplishments and development. It was amazing to see how Dad mellowed with their arrival. I will never forget the day I picked Lucas up. He was 2, and Mom told me that he had colored on the wall of the basement. She meant to say he colored from wall to wall in the basement. And having done my fair share of damage to those walls, most notably with my best friend Adam, who's here. He's the only one who ever got kicked out of our house for his own protection. Yep. I was expecting to hear how upset Dad was. Mom told me that his response was, "It happens in a shrug." I couldn't believe it.
But let me tell you what Lucas did. He was 2 years old. I gave him a paper towel, and I put the paint on the paper towel and had him smear it across the wall. I couldn't even tell.
You still gotta explain how you got away with all that stuff, buddy. I love you, Dad. You have helped me become the man that I am today, and I will be forever grateful for the example that you set as both a father and a person. Again, thank you all for joining us today.
I'd like to continue with this poem as if Lee would be responding to the beautiful tributes we just heard. I think this poem reflects Lee's philosophy of life and living. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I'm following the path God laid for me. I took God's hand when I heard God call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I found that place at the close of day. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss, ah yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full. I savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. God set me free. Let us all rise.
El male rachamim, shochein b'mromim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanafei hashechina, b'malot kedoshim, utehorim, kizohar harakia mazhirim, et nishmat leib ben leib shalach leolamo, began Eden tehei menuchato. Ana Baal harachamim, hastirehu beseter kenafecha leolamim, utzror bitzror hachaim, et nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom. Al mishkavo v'nomar Amen. El Malei Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Lee Hymerling, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us all say,
You may be seated for a moment. I've been asked to announce that following the service at Locustwood Memorial Park, the family will be returning to their Haddonfield home 1125 Washington Avenue, where they will welcome all family and friends. It's a really perfect opportunity to share your own stories and memories of Lee. There will be a Shiva service both tonight and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Thank you. We're going to hear the sound of hope. First to Kia. To Kia Gidola.
Adonai li velo ira, ve'im ruchi geviati. Adonai li velo ira. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear, safe within your hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that you kindly remain seated. This row, please. Just right up the front. This row, please.